Hey everybody, I wanted to talk to you today about one of the biggest lessons to learn with off-grid living, and that is automotive repair work. Now everyone's gonna find themselves in the situation, whether you live off-grid or live in the middle of the city. Your vehicle's gonna eventually break. Something is gonna eventually break. So if you live off-grid, the difference is that everything's up to you to figure it out, to diagnose and get it fixed. And sometimes you're fortunate enough to have a mechanic shop nearby, or just a mechanic as a neighbor that can help you get through it. But what if you're by yourself? What if you don't have those kinds of neighbors? What if you don't have any neighbors at all, like me? So when something breaks, you gotta deal with it yourself, right? And one of the first things you need is you need tools. You need the right tools, or you ain't getting nowhere. I use as much craftsmen as possible, but you can't always have craftsmen, and that's okay, because sometimes you break your tools. But today, we're gonna talk about the transmission. And my transmission did not break, but we need to service our transmissions every once in a while. You gotta change the oil, the filter, and make sure that the levels are proper. So that's what I was doing. I was servicing my transmission so that I wouldn't have a transmission breakdown. And I found some things that were a problem, and I thought I would share them with you. And the biggest thing was, here's my transmission drain pan. And what you'll notice right here is a plug to drain the fluid. How about that? Right there. So this is a 4L80-e off my GMC Sierra. And not all transmissions have these drain plugs. So I thought it was really nice that I actually had a drain plug. This is the only vehicle where I do have a drain plug. So when I went to try to drain the fluid, guess what happened? Yeah, stripped out head on the bolt. So a lot of you might experience this with a lot of different parts on your vehicles. It might not be a drain plug, it could be any bolt, anywhere on your vehicle. And if it's stripped, you got some issues, and you gotta work those issues out. And if you're by yourself out in the middle of nowhere, up in the woods like me, you better start thinking. So some of the obvious things are to, one, try an easy out. Those are really good sockets to have. Easy out sockets, they're made just for stripped stuff. Unfortunately, I do not have my easy outs with me up here. They got stolen. It's another issue here in America right now. A lot of things are getting stolen. So I had a bunch of tools stolen this last winter, and I have to get creative with how I fix things now until I get all those tools replaced. So no easy out. What do you do? What's the next thing you can do? Well, the next really good thing to do, if you have a welder, is to weld an extra nut right on the end here, okay? Same size as the original, if you can. Would really benefit. And if you can get a nut welded on here, you can take a wrench, pull it right off, and you could probably even reuse it. So as you can see here, I don't have a extra nut welded on there. So what did I do? Well, I had my welder stolen as well. So I happen to have a little crappy backup welder. It barely works, but it kind of works. And I tried to weld a nut on here, and it didn't hold. I tried three different nuts, and I couldn't get the weld to stick on here. And I ground this up. I ground this up real nice and clean first before I did the weld, so it'd have a nice surface to attach to. And it's metal. There's my little magnet. So, you know, it's not aluminum, so the weld should have held, but it didn't. And here's one of my nuts that I tried welding onto there. And see how much extra bite you got? That's really good, so that should work. It should have worked. But for some reason, my weld didn't hold. Snapped off every one of these darn things. So, you know, now what do you do? What do you do now? You get a giant grinder and you just grind the whole darn thing off and then drill through it? That's no fun. You could ruin this pan real easy. Look how it's set deep in there. So I wouldn't recommend that at all. So what did I do? What did I do? This wasn't totally destroyed. It's not like super rusted. It's just stripped on all the corners. You know, I used a 12.2. I didn't use a 6 point. And it's still stripped. It was already stripped when I tried it. Whoever the previous person was, they stripped it and they put it on so darn tight, it's not even funny. Like 150 foot-pounds they did on this darn thing. Something crazy. So don't over tighten your drain plugs. None of them. Number one, like, read your books. There's torque specifications for everything on your vehicles. Abide by them, and you will be in good shape. So what did I do? What did I do? This is what I did. If you don't have a welder, you don't have easy offs, you don't want to grind. Now remember, a welder, if the pan's still on your vehicle, you could catch a fire, you know, fluid will catch fire and stuff. You know, you need spark, you need flammable liquid, and you need oxygen. So I don't like welding on the vehicle where there's fluid. This is what I did. I got a grinder. And I got a multi-pack of bits from, you know, the hardware store or whatever. I used to have a nice grinder. I used to have an actual Dremel, but that got stolen too. Thank you, thieves. So I gotta use this backup one, cheapy Harbor Freight, whatever. It worked. Got me through this. Always have a back. Here's another lesson for off-grid living. Have a backup tool for everything. Because your socket's gonna eventually break, your tool's gonna eventually break or get stolen, and you might not be able to get down the mountain to get the replacements. So always have a backup. So this is what I did. I got a really clean square grinder piece. See that? and I reground the hex head. I eliminated all the stripped areas. Squared it up again. That's what I did. See that? It's shiny and clean. Now, this is how you do it. Remember, when you're grinding, you're taking off metal. So, this bolt, this drain plug, was originally a 15 millimeter. Okay? This is loose now because I ground it down and got rid of metal. So what you need is you need to step down to the next size socket. Now I didn't go to a 14 millimeter. I switched over to standard and did a 9/16 because that is the next size down. 14 millimeter would be even more grinding, right? So I just ground a little bit at a time on each corner. Try and clean it up, square it up, that's it. And then I stop and I try it out. Okay? You don't want to do too much. Do a little bit and then try it. A little bit more, try it. Gotta be a little bit patient. And then eventually you'll get it to where it slips on more than halfway to 3/4, and that's what you want. See that? That's how far it goes, 3/4. Okay. I know I got a good bite. All I'm gonna do at this point is just tap it in. Look at that, all the way seated. That was a soft tap. I'm just holding this in my hand. That was a soft tap, and that is perfectly seated. I took out my bar, came right off. What do you know? So, maybe I could reuse this. I'm not gonna, because I already bought a new one. I bought this new one from Napa, and it's got a bigger head, a lot more bite on it. See that? That's a lot better. That's twice as much. So I'm gonna go ahead and install this one, and I'm gonna have a brand new head, brand new thread, brand new everything. I'll just keep this one for a memory. And there you go. Off-grid lesson number 2. Take care, everybody.